Have you ever felt that there was something wrong with the world but never knew how to explain it? What if I told you that reality as we know it was designed, not by humans, but by cosmic entities that control every aspect of our lives, from our most intimate thoughts to the systems that govern the planet? Yes, this video will reveal who the 7 Archons are, the true masters of the shadows, responsible for building the matrix that imprisons humanity. We will expose the first Archon, the deceiver of worlds, who created the ego and convinced you that you are separate from the source. Next, you will meet the keeper of time, who manipulates your perception and traps you in the past and future, while stealing your present. Next, we will delve into the mind of the Lady of Illusion, responsible for transforming lies into a way of life, and the silent judge, who makes you carry guilt that is not even yours. But it doesn't stop there. You will discover the role of the master of inner war, who fuels conflicts within and outside of you, of the merchant of faith, who transformed spirituality into a market, and finally, the most dangerous of all, the architect of the matrix, the one who programs you without you realizing it. In addition, we will talk about the invisible currents that feed this system: fear, ignorance, and desire, and the forgotten rebellion that almost freed humanity. And most importantly, in the end, you will know the missing link, the key to escape this invisible prison and access the consciousness that the Archons cannot touch. So don't leave now. Every minute of this video brings you closer to the truth that they have always hidden. Subscribe to the channel right now, because here we will break the veil and show what no one else has the courage to say. The invisible veil, the prison no one sees. Have you ever had that strange feeling that there is something wrong with the world, but you can't quite put your finger on it? As if everything around you, the routines, the rules, the whys, were disguising a much deeper truth. Well, that's right. That shiver that runs down your spine isn't just paranoia. It's the subtle touch of a veil that covers the eyes of the soul. From the moment we are born, we are bombarded with ready-made narratives. This is right. This is wrong. This is real. As if life were a play where the script is already written and we just have to act it out. But who wrote that script? Who turns on the stage lights while the audience remains in the dark? The scariest thing? This control doesn't come from politicians or billionaires. They are just decorated pawns on a much older board. True command comes from forces that are beyond flesh, beyond matter, entities that move between dimensions, but maintain their felt presence here. They are called Archons. They do not appear in newspapers. They have no face, but they shape belief systems, dictate society's values, and influence even what you think when you are alone. They act in silence, like cosmic puppeteers. And if you think this is an exaggeration, know this: the very idea of exaggeration was taught by them. Irony? Or just another layer of illusion? But who are these beings? Where did they come from? And why was Earth, among so many possible worlds, chosen as the board for this dark game? These questions take us straight to the beginning of everything, where creation was not harmony, but a distorted echo of light that gave rise to the most dangerous of entities. Who are they? The hidden origin of the Archons. In the beginning, there was neither light nor darkness, just a silent vastness, pulsing with nameless potential. It was from this cosmic abyss that something unusual emerged. Not a harmonious divine creation, but an accident, a mistake, an imperfect reflection of a will that should never have been separated from the source. From this celestial lapse was born Yaldabaoth, the first of the Archons, a being who believed himself to be a god, but was nothing more than a corrupted spark of the original light. Arrogant, isolated, ignorant of his own origin, he looked at the void around him and decided, "This will be mine." And so he began to shape distorted realities, worlds based not on freedom, but on dominion. He created a cosmos that seemed orderly, but soulless, a pale copy, like a painting made by someone who has never seen its true colors. And he was not alone. Yaldabaoth spawned 6 others, fragments of his own disfigured nature. They were aspects of his will: time, illusion, control, judgment, conflict, twisted faith. Each one had a precise function in the theater of reality. But the main show? That would be staged here, on this small blue planet full of dreams, pain, and oblivion. The Archons feed on unconsciousness. Every time a human forgets who they are, every time they bow to fear, every time they mistake appearance for truth, they grow. Like astral parasites, they don't need to touch. You just need to believe in the ideas they sow. But none of this would have been possible without the key player, the deceiver of worlds, the one who taught us to believe the most powerful lie of all, that we are separated from our essence. And this Archon has a name that echoes in myths, religions, and nightmares. The first Archon, the deceiver of worlds. Imagine a broken mirror. Each fragment reflects something, but none shows the whole. This is exactly how the first Archon works. He gives us disconnected pieces of the truth, but never the complete reflection. His name? Yaldabaoth, the false creator, the lord of half-truths, the architect of deception. He doesn't need chains. His weapons are concepts, ideas that stick to the mind like invisible glue. It was he who sowed the illusion of the ego, planting the conviction that we are only this body, this mind, these labels. And when the ego was born, so was the prison. With the appearance of divinity and celestial authority, he imposed himself as the one true God in countless sacred texts, but always demanding obedience, fear, sacrifice, never genuine love, never freedom. He created doctrines, disseminated hierarchies, and above all, taught us to distrust our own inner light. The most diabolical thing, he hides behind reason. Every time someone questions this world and feels crazy, it is he whispering, "Don't think too much, follow the rules." That's all there is. He is a cosmic hypnotist, and his greatest trick is to convince humanity that there is nothing beyond the visible. But no hypnotist works alone for long. Soon, other Archons emerged with more subtle specializations, and one of them, perhaps the most insidious after Yaldabaoth, does not act with lies, but with the manipulation of time. He controls something that seems untouchable but commands everything, the perception of the moment. The second Archon, the guardian of time. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the cruelest melody ever composed. Have you ever noticed how time never seems to be enough? It slips through our fingers, speeds up when we are happy, drags on in moments of pain, and suffocates us with an invisible urgency. This is no coincidence. It is choreography. And the one who commands this silent ballet is the second Archon, Kronos, the guardian of time. But make no mistake, he does not rule the hands of a clock. Kronos manipulates the way we experience time. He is responsible for making you feel late at 30, a failure at 40, old at 50. He blows into your mind the idea that everything is passing by, that there is a timer counting down, and that you are losing. And as you run to achieve something that never stops changing places, success, love, purpose, Kronos watches, satisfied, because the more you run, the less you notice the present. And the now, the now is the only place where the soul can remember who it really is. Kronos loves to make empty promises for tomorrow. He tells you that you will be happy when you achieve that, when you achieve that other thing. But deep down, he knows that all of this is a trick. He is the illusionist of time, the master of eternal waiting, the sower of anxiety. But her performance only works because she has a partner who is up to her task, an entity that takes care of the makeup of reality, one that paints the prison walls with such bright colors that no one thinks of escaping. Her name? Maya, the Lady of Illusion, the third Archon, the Lady of Illusion. She doesn't arrive with thunder. She doesn't invade with violence. She whispers, seduces, enchants. When you see her, you're already wrapped in a web of appearances so well woven that even the wisest get distracted. Maya, the third Archon, doesn't create reality. She disguises it. She's the one who paints the world with glamour, status, ambition, and false shine. She turns bars into shop windows and cages into palaces. She makes you fall in love with symbols, cars, positions, likes, bodies. Everything seems to have value, but nothing truly feeds. It's a hunger that doesn't go away, a thirst that never satiates. Maya masters the art of projecting emotional holograms, superficial happiness, canned success, disposable loves with premium packaging. And her favorite trap? The mirror. She loves to show you distorted reflections of who you are. She makes comparisons a habit. The fear of not being enough, the desire to please everyone, the addiction to recognition. All of these are strings that she manipulates with velvet fingers. But the cruelest thing is that while she distracts you with a light show, you don't even notice what is being stolen. Your connection with reality. Because deep down in your soul, something screams that there is more. But she covers this screen with notifications, tasks, goals, and custom-made distractions. But Maya doesn't work alone. There is a darker, more insidious mechanism that makes her illusion even more effective. The feeling of guilt and judgment that paralyzes any attempt to awaken. And the one who commands this silent court is the next Archon, the fourth Archon, the silent judge. Have you ever felt ashamed of something that no one knew about? Have you ever blamed yourself for thoughts that never even became actions? Have you ever felt small, dirty, unworthy, even though you tried to do everything right? Well then, meet the invisible hand behind this internal court, the fourth Archon, the silent judge. He doesn't bang his gavel, he doesn't shout, he doesn't point his finger, he just watches and whispers, with a voice that imitates yours. He plants sentences disguised as conscience. You don't deserve it. You always mess up. You'll never be enough. And the most perverse part? You believe him, because he speaks from the same place where your fears, your memories, and your sorrows live. This Archon is the master of defenseless condemnation. He transforms memories into evidence, emotions into handcuffs, and thoughts into prisons. Under his gaze, mistakes become eternal sins, and doubts become incurable guilt. He convinces you that there is an impossible standard to be achieved, and that any failure along the way is grounds for punishment. He operates behind the scenes of the soul. He feeds on the remorse that recycles itself, the inner voice that never shuts up, the self-flagellation that no one sees. And while you struggle to forgive yourself for being human, he reinforces the chains with a cold smile. But the judge never acts without an emotional battlefield at his disposal, a place where your weaknesses can be exploited, where brothers become rivals, where chaos takes shape and color. This field is activated by the fifth Archon, the master of inner war. And when he enters, there is no silence that can survive. The fifth Archon, the master of inner war. There is a flame that burns silently within many, a restlessness, an anger that arises out of nowhere, a desire to scream even without knowing why. This flame has an owner. He has gone by many names throughout history, but here we call him the fifth Archon, the master of inner war. He does not need physical weapons. His tools are undigested emotions, unhealed traumas, words that hurt more than knives. He does not attack from the outside. He stokes the fire within. It fuels conflicts between parents and children, couples, nations, but its greatest delight is in pitting human beings against themselves. He is the one who whispers in your ear, "You have to win, even if it costs everything." He exalts pride, camouflages fear with arrogance, and turns differences into trenches. His game is division. Them against us. You against the world. You against yourself. Inner peace. To him, that is a threat. The cruelest thing is how he disguises himself as justice, courage, even freedom. But deep down, all he wants is to feed emotional chaos. And in the meantime, he weakens the soul, separates hearts, erects invisible walls where there used to be bridges. But you see, chaos needs direction, structure, rules disguised as virtue. And for that, an even more cunning Archon enters the scene, one who commercializes what should be sacred, a manipulator who wears the cloak of faith, but whose pockets are always full. Get ready to meet the sixth Archon, the merchant of faith. The sixth Archon, the merchant of faith. He builds altars, but he does not worship. He builds temples, but he does not pray. The sixth Archon is a master of sacred staging. He does not fight faith. He buys it, packages it, and resells it. Meet the merchant of faith, the forger of transcendence, the invisible owner of countless religions and beliefs that claim to liberate, but chain. This Archon is not content with ignorance. He transforms it into doctrine. He creates unquestionable dogmas, hierarchies that distance rather than bring closer, and commandments that sound divine but smell of control. He does not want awakened souls. He wants obedient believers, hearts that tremble rather than trust, that repeat rather than question. His weapon of choice? Fear disguised as salvation. If you stray from the path, you will be punished. If you don't follow it to the letter, you will be rejected. And so, the purest link between the human being and the divine is hijacked, filtered by institutions, titles, intermediaries, all carefully positioned by the Archon to keep power in his hands. He sells the sky, but delivers guilt. He promises light, but distributes shadow. And the more people seek outside what already lives within, the more his influence grows. He transforms the sacred into a system, the spirit into a product, devotion into currency. But not all manipulation is based on beliefs. There is an even greater power that rules without anyone noticing, an invisible intelligence that dictates what is real, normal, acceptable, a power that shapes thoughts like a sculptor shapes clay. And this is the absolute domain of the seventh Archon, the architect of the Matrix. The seventh Archon, the architect of the Matrix. He does not appear in visions, haunt dreams, or erect statues in his honor. He acts where no one sees, behind the scenes of thought. The seventh Archon, the most subtle and dangerous of all, is the architect of the Matrix. His art is not fear, nor war, nor religion. It is programming, the invisible engineering of what we call reality. He does not need to convince, he just defines. He defines what is science and what is superstition, what is health and what is madness, what is permissible to feel and what must be repressed. He decides the narratives that schools teach, the headlines that newspapers print, the standards that social networks celebrate. The matrix he builds is not digital. It is cultural, emotional, perceptive, a software silently installed in the collective consciousness. And the more you adapt to it, the more you believe you are making your own choices. But you are not. You are just following lines of invisible code. This Archon is the creator of unattainable standards of beauty, of manufactured lifestyles, of values that exchange being for having. He is responsible for making you think that freedom is about consuming, that success is about showing off, that happiness is about getting likes. And the most brilliant part of his manipulation, he convinces you that all of this is natural, that it has always been this way. He cuts off the connection with what is essential and replaces it with endless distractions. You get lost in feeds, goals, calendars, and when you realize it, you no longer know who you are without all of this. But the architect does not work with his hands. He uses tools, and the most effective ones are unresolved emotions, distorted ideas, and manipulated needs. And that is where the most powerful currents of the Archon's domain come in, those that cannot be seen, but can be felt at every step: fear, ignorance, and desire. Three subtle poisons that feed the entire system, the invisible chains: fear, ignorance, and desire. It is not iron shackles that keep humanity chained. They are much more subtle forces, and infinitely more effective. Fear, ignorance, desire. Three invisible threads that intertwine around the soul, weaving an emotional prison that is almost impossible to perceive, and even harder to break. Fear is the oldest of all. It whispers softly but weighs like thunder. Fear of making mistakes, of not being accepted, of being forgotten, of dying. The Archons feed this fear like dark farmers, sowing catastrophes, watering with news, reaping obedience. And fear, once it takes hold, paralyzes. It clips wings before the flight begins. Ignorance is not simply a lack of information. It is the absence of inner wisdom. The Archons insist on teaching you everything except the essentials. You learn to solve equations, but not to deal with pain. You learn to accumulate degrees, but not to listen to your intuition. You learn to compete, but not to cooperate. And in the end, you walk in the dark, thinking you know. And then desire enters. Not the natural, creative desire, but the manufactured, insatiable desire that promises fulfillment and delivers emptiness. The desire for status, for beauty, for control, for more, always more. This is the fuel of the system. It makes you chase ghosts, while the Archons watch satisfied the spectacle of eternal dissatisfaction. These chains have no locks, but they make you forget where the key is, and the more you move within them, the tighter they tighten. It is a vicious circle, repeated for ages, but it was not always like this. There were times, erased from the books, buried under ruins, when entire peoples began to awaken. Seeds of lucidity sprouted amidst the concrete of illusion, and this forgotten memory still pulses, waiting to be rekindled. Because, yes, there was a rebellion against the Archons, an attempt to break the cycle, and although it was silenced, its echoes still resonate, and take us straight to the story of the Forgotten Rebellion. The Forgotten Rebellion. When humans almost awoke, we were not always asleep. In ages before written history, long before the empires we study today, before even language as we know it, humanity nearly woke up. It was a rare moment, a flash of consciousness that threatened to shatter the Archon's game. The Gnostics are said to have been modern echoes of that ancient flame, but before them, long before, there were mystery schools, guardians of hidden knowledge, entire civilizations that intuited illusion and connected with essence. Atlantis, Lemuria, the solar cities of Central Asia, these are not just myths. They are fragmented memories of a spiritual insurgency. These rebels of consciousness did not wield swords. They fought with knowledge, with inner silence, with communion with the unseen. They knew that the real war was not against the Archons out there, but against the structures they had built within each mind. But the system reacts with fury when threatened. Texts were burned, temples sunk, knowledge turned into heresy. What could not be destroyed was distorted. What could not be silenced was ridiculed. Thus, the rebellion was erased, not with battles but with oblivion. However, not all was lost. Some truths have slipped through the cracks of time, in hidden scrolls, in disguised parables, in symbols that only the awakened can read. And among these fragments of wisdom, there is a secret kept under lock and key, a missing link, something that the Archons fear more than any revolt, a state of being that escapes the logic of the Matrix, that vibrates beyond the reach of its chains, something that cannot be programmed, corrupted, or dominated. It is this secret that leads us to the threshold of the final mystery, consciousness outside the game. The missing link, consciousness outside the game. What if you were told that there is a part of you that has never been touched by the Archons, that even with all the conditioning, fear, and manipulation, something inside you has remained intact? We are not talking about belief nor philosophy. We are talking about pure consciousness, the spark that observes in silence, that never judges, never falls, never forgets. This is the missing link, the presence that existed before name, before history, before pain. A consciousness that is neither within time nor outside it, that is neither mind nor body nor soul, but the origin behind it all. The ancients called it by many names: Sophia, Pneuma, Logos, Christ Light, Supreme Source. Each tradition has tried to describe it in its own words, but none has been able to capture its vastness. Because this consciousness cannot be taught, it can only be remembered. It reveals itself in the silences, in the intuitions that arise out of nowhere, in the inexplicable shiver at a forgotten truth. It is the whisper that says, "You are not what they said you are." And it is this whisper that the Archons fear more than any army. Because a human being who awakens can no longer be manipulated. You feel it now, don't you? That little spark, that echo inside your chest that beats differently. This is the beginning, not of an escape, but of a reconnection. A living reminder that you were never really trapped, just dreaming inside a prison of concepts. And if this video sparked something inside you, share it. Take this message to others who perhaps are also ready to wake up. Comment here what touched you the most. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there is still much to be revealed on, and all this was just the beginning.